Hello everyone, welcome to a video that probably a year and a half ago I could never have imagined making. It is my London Marathon Q&A/recap. What a crazy experience it's been. It's almost been a month now since the actual event, so I've had a lot of time to reflect, think about what the future holds for me and running. And I also asked on Instagram for you guys to submit questions, so we'll go through kind of like different stages. We'll do a training section, one about charity fundraising because I did do it for Make-A-Wish, then a section about the actual day itself and how I found it, and then what the future holds. Considering I feel like my audience is very much Disney/Taylor Swift, I was surprised how many questions you guys had. So let's get into it, starting with training. Oh, actually really quickly though, I want to give a spotlight to my t-shirt. A lot of miles to run at the moment. I will this to the expo, but I was sick that week, so I didn't really vlog a bunch at the expo. We'll recap that later, but that was super fun. So we start off with, where did you get your training plan? I actually got it from my sister who ran the marathon last year. Like me, she was pretty much a beginner, so she went from 5k distance to marathon in basically a year. She found it online, I'm guessing, and then she shared it with me and my dad, because my dad also ran the marathon this year. Who'd have thought? We are not an athletic family, and suddenly 3 out of 4 children have run a marathon, and my dad as well. So the pressure is on my older brother. Don't let this slide down. But yeah, the training plan she gave me was 6 months long, so it's a very gradual build. I know the official plans from the London Marathon are 16 weeks. I personally think that is too short for a beginner. You're gonna have to increase quite rapidly, and also I think it's like 4 to 5 runs a week, whereas mine was a very gentle increase and only 3 runs per week, which for me personally worked better. It meant I avoided getting any injuries, which was very fortunate because I know that can just kind of like happen out of nowhere. It's not necessarily to do with your plan or anything to blame, but yeah, I managed to get through the whole thing injury-free, which is pretty impressive. If anyone wants the plan specifically, feel free to message me and I'll send it through, just to show you like how it gradually built up. Week 1 was 3 miles, 2 miles, 4 miles, and then again week 2 was 3 miles, 2 miles, 5 miles. So from one week to the next, you're only increasing your long run by 1 mile. And then I'm looking now, and week 3 was 6 miles, week 4 was 7 miles, and then week 5, you come back down to 5 miles again. So it kind of worked in like build for 4 weeks and then go back down for a week. So it's very gradual, and also builds in those rest weeks or more chill weeks, which you especially appreciate when it comes to the crazy month of March. Honestly, that was the most insane month. The long runs for March were 16 miles, 17 miles, 18 miles, and 20 miles. And bearing in mind, during the week, you're also running 6 miles and 5 miles for that whole month. 6 miles is a 10k for context. So yeah, March was not my favorite month of the year. But overall, my training plan was very good. It fitted in with my lifestyle and being able to also do things outside of running. I couldn't have every evening be dedicated to running. I needed time to see my friends and also just chill because it's exhausting. Someone actually said, running versus cross training schedule. What type of cross training did you do? So my sister's plan that she gave me did have 4 columns in it. So it was like easy run, a pace run, and then a long run, and then the 4th column was weights. I just didn't see that column. I know I probably would have like ran better and protected my body better if I had done weights, but I hate anything strength training. It's just something in me, like I'm so naturally weak, I just didn't want to do it. There are a few tests you can do though on your legs to kind of see what your strength is like there. They came out pretty strong. So my legs are fine, my arms are just like, there's nothing there. I feel like my equivalent of cross training though is walking. So I actually walk to work. It's an hour from my flat, so that is about 3.5 to 4 miles, and I did that 4 days a week, definitely walking in and sometimes walking home as well. So my cross training, I guess, would be walking, because I would do a long run on the Sunday, for example, and then the next day I was walking back into work. So does that count? Probably should have done it, but I got round regardless. Tips for training and prep: know you have to adjust your lifestyle. I said earlier how I still wanted to see friends and do other stuff outside of running, but you have to be really deliberate with planning in that rest time as well. Once my long runs were getting up to being like half marathon distance or longer, I just knew the rest of that weekend day was a write-off and I wasn't gonna be able to do anything else. That is a sacrifice that you have to take, and it's very much about like prioritizing your recovery and not wearing yourself out too much, because it's exhausting stuff. Otherwise though, I feel like it's really important to hold yourself accountable. So I shared a lot about my journey online, and you can't just back out when everyone knows you're doing it. Also on my Strava, I would post my runs every week and be like, marathon week 10, run 1 of 3, because I had 3 runs per week. And for me, if I put it out there that it's run 1 of 3, you bet I'm doing 3 runs that week. I can't have it incomplete. I can't have a 2 out of 3 and then go for the next week, you know? I know some people like running with others. I personally don't enjoy that because I like to speed up or slow down as I want to, but a lot of people find that very helpful. One thing I would definitely say, and I would probably build into a future plan, is having more races. So I had the Disney half marathon, which conveniently fell when I would be doing a half marathon anyway during the plan, and I kind of wish I'd booked in another couple races, like even a 10K or another half marathon, because pretty much from like mid-January onwards, it was a half marathon every weekend. So it would have been fun if I kind of just like done it at an event, because it's something quite anticlimactic about finishing running 13, 14, 15 miles and you're just like, okay, no one's gonna congratulate me, I guess I'll just go home. So I'd say look into events in like your local area or maybe even beyond, and just find some fun races because you also get another medal. Someone said what was the longest distance you had run when you decided to do a marathon. So I went from 5K to half marathon distance last year for the Run Disney half. So that was from like the start of January until the end of February. Somehow we got up to the half marathon distance, and then I entered for a charity place in May. So I'd done a half marathon distance but nothing beyond that, and I feel like that's pretty normal. The only thing I would say is that I was still a relatively new runner, so my first half marathon was last year. Other people probably would do like a few half marathons and then maybe think about a marathon, but yeah, the tall bits don't do things by half. And then speaking of signing up, obviously I did not get a place through the ballot because last year I think like 800,000 people signed up. This year it was 1.1 million, and there's maybe like 10-20,000 places, which is insane. Like it's literally not possible to get it now, apart from my dad. But I feel like it has something to do with the age waiting. Anyway, let's talk about Make-A-Wish, the amazing charity that I got to run for. People have been asking why I chose that charity. I've had a connection with Make-A-Wish since 2017 when I worked at Disney World. If you didn't know, I was a merchandise cast member, so I would work in the stores and I would see a lot of Make-A-Wish families, and it would always like touch me to just see them having such a magical time, and I just felt very inspired. Fast forward to 2022, I start working at Disney HQ in London, and Disney as a company is just very involved with Make-A-Wish as one of their official charity corporate partners. And they have this really amazing event every year called Disney Wish. It started out of COVID when they wanted to bring an alternative to sending kids to the theme parks, but now they've continued it every year for children that can't travel. And basically they hire out this amazing manor in Staffordshire, and all the families come and they basically bring Disney there. I was lucky enough to do it last weekend and it was just the most incredible experience. They really rely on volunteers, spelled like E-A-R-S, to make the event possible. So Disney partners with Make-A-Wish on the event. They have so many characters, activities. They have the Frozen sing-along, Enchanted Tales with Belle. There is a carousel, and it's just the most magical, wholesome, heartwarming experience. Like there were a few times where I had to quickly like wipe away some tears because it is emotional, but overall it's just so magical. It's such an incredible event. But when I first started with Disney in 2022, I was involved in preparing the pre-arrival packages, so the kids get sent like a Mickey plush, ears, pins ahead of time. So I've been quite involved with Make-A-Wish leading up to this year where I got to actually volunteer with a Disney Wish, and I guess it all just fell into place this year. I filled out the application form online. I don't know how competitive it is. I feel like there was around 200 people running for Make-A-Wish. Some charities have way more places, some may have very few, so it all depends on what charity you sign up for. I also know though I signed up with them and found out maybe a couple weeks later, so I don't know if this is like the same every year, but they didn't wait until they've received everything, close it and then assess. It was kind of like they got an application through and then I was just offered it. Whereas I know other people who apply for charities, there was like a closing date and then they found out after that. So I don't know, maybe that like helps your chances if you submit early. But yeah, I was very grateful to get that email, but also very surprised. I was literally sat here on the sofa and the email popped up and I just kind of froze and stared at it, and then I said to Alice like, I've just been offered a place with Make-A-Wish the marathon, and she was so excited for me, and I was just kind of like speechless because it's such a big thing to receive on an email, and also intimidating because different charities require different amounts to be fundraised. I feel like generally it's a minimum of 2,000, but Make-A-Wish was 2,500. It's a hefty amount. Somehow, some way, by the generosity of so many people, and also personally fundraising through selling clothes, personal donations, I somehow managed to raise over £4,000, which is just incredible and will grant so many wishes, and I'm so grateful to anyone that donated because you are making wishes come true. And I just think that is so wonderful. People want to support the charity and also me doing this event. If you did donate, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. To get into the actual event though, most of the questions are about that. I'm gonna kind of like just go through it as I see them now because there's a lot to talk about. But someone said, what running shoes did you wear and would you recommend them? I have the Hoka Clifton 9s, I think. They just brought out the 10, so yeah, I think 9. I don't know what's different between each pair, but I'm a Hoka Clifton girly. To be honest, I've never really tried other ones. I just had them and they worked for me. And now I feel like we're in it together. I had one pair that I used from Christmas through to the start of April, and then I switched to my race day pair. They had a few miles in them, were a little broken in. But personally, I found with Hokas, from as soon as I'm wearing them, like they're all good to go. No blisters, no problems. That comes on to a good point actually. Someone said, how are the toenails? Fine, not a single problem. praise the running gods, honestly, because we came out unscathed. Obviously, these questions came like a few days after I'd done the marathon. So someone said, are you feeling sore? And I feel like the day after I woke up and I did feel very sore in like my quads and just general tightness in my legs, but also my back, which I hadn't had in any long run. I feel like I was just stiff and I kind of like hobbled around, and I found that when I moved, it got better. And when I stayed sat down for too long, it got worse because I like seized up. I think by about Thursday, I felt fine muscle-wise. Then I went for my first run a week after the marathon, and I just felt so unfit. Like my fitness was shot, and I had heard people say that before, but I wasn't prepared to be like, why can I not run a 5K? Like, I just ran 26 miles last weekend and suddenly I'm struggling to get around this distance, which I've done so many times over the last 6 months. But we'll come to the future again. Let's try to stay on track with the actual race day. Someone said, how were the crowds at the start? Tempted to sign up but get quite anxious with crowds. So I was in Team Green, which was new this year. It's the environmental new zone they created, and they pitched it as like, there's less lines for the toilets and you get free hot drinks, you get a free snack, and just generally it's supposed to be like a smaller area. The queue for the toilet was still half an hour, so I don't know if I'm really buying that. And then on the day it was so hot, we'll get to that in a minute, that I didn't want a hot drink. I don't think anyone did. So there were crowds, but it wasn't like crowded. There was a lot of people around, but it wasn't like we were squished in like sardines, if that makes sense. Then a lot of people are asking what was the hardest part of the day, what was the toughest section, what did you find the hardest mile and why, what was the hardest part of both the training and the day, and how did you cope in the heat? There's the $1,000,000 question. The heat was intense. I think it reached a high of 22 degrees, but when I started running at 11 AM, it was around 19 degrees already, which was just insane. Like, to run in that, bearing in mind you train through the winter months, I remember going up for a run and it was -5 degrees. Like, some people might not think 19 degrees is too hot depending on where they live, but yeah, it's quite the difference from training in winter and it being cold and even like almost icy to them being like, oh, it's like summer. Wow, the sun is making a grand entrance for this section of the vlog. Pretty much how I feel about it on the day as well. I think we just move a little bit back. Yeah, that's fine, isn't it? Okay, we go on. The heat was without a doubt the hardest part of the day. It just meant you had to slow down so much, and I feel like we had to drink so much water. There was water stops every 3 miles. It was like a little bottle of water, and then there were 2 or 3 Lucozade stops as well. Bearing in mind, again, during training, I barely drank water. I would have maybe 500 milliliters during a long run, and I was drinking at every water stop, like the full bottle, if not putting it down my back. I needed so many fluids on the race day because the heat was just ridiculous. Like, the first half, there was not a cloud in the sky. Beautiful. Great for spectators, not great for runners. And then also, as some questions have alluded to by asking, was your cold gone by the day? It was the fact that I was technically still sick. I came down with a really nasty cold on, I think, the Tuesday or Wednesday of the week of the marathon. And I was trying everything to get this cold away. I was taking the Dayquil, the NyQuil. I wasn't drinking any caffeine. I was just resting and chilling, Berocca, all kinds of meds, vapor rub, everything I could do. And it got to the day and I felt okay. I think I was kind of like gaslighting myself. I was not actually okay. Like, I was definitely still sick. My heart rate was still raised. I can see on my Fitbit, my metrics weren't where they should have been, but I was just denying it. And it got to about mile 9 or 10, I think, and I completely crashed out. Like, I was feeling dizzy. I was trying to force a gel down me, and I thought I was gonna just like have it repeat on me. And I stopped to stand in the toilets, and I had a real panic mode of like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, mile 9 is far too early to be having a freak out, and I thought I was gonna pass out. Like, the heat was so crazy. My heart was spiking, everything was not going well, and I had to completely shift my perspective and be like, this is completely going to be about finishing. If you have to walk the rest of this race, that's what you're gonna do. And it was frustrating because I trained so hard and I was so dedicated to my training plan, never missed a run, showed up every single time, did the distance, and then I wasn't able to like perform to my ability or what I knew I was capable of because heat and illness. But at the end of the day, we still got around. And then I feel like as well, after that point, I pretty much saw a friend or family member every mile or 2 after that, and that lifted my spirits so much. I had to stop for hugs every single time, even seeing people I hadn't planned to see because they were spectating other people. Honestly, bless Megan and Lois because they brought me Lucozade Sports, and I worked out that the carbs in that was equivalent to 2 gels, and after the halfway point, I abandoned the gels. They were making me feel way too sick in the heat, and I just needed Lucozade. So I saw them at mile 13 and again at mile 20, and they basically were my fuel for the second half. Thank you if you're watching. I am eternally grateful because without you guys, I don't think I would have finished that race. It got to a point as well, I was accepting everything from strangers. Jelly babies, Biscoff biscuits, even my manager from work gave me a cream egg and Prosecco. I was just like, whatever we can do to avoid having the gels, we're gonna take. And it's weird as well, because during training, like, I was fine with the gels. Even on my 20-mile run, I still managed to have my last gel. I felt like a bit nauseous taking it, but I've been running for 3.5 hours at that point and it was fine. I truly think it was the heat that screwed us over. Like, it was not ideal. Someone did say, did you need to stop for the loo / to eat, and did you use gels? So yeah, I did use gels for the first half and then we abandoned them. I stopped for 2 loo breaks, but it wasn't because I really needed to go, it was because I just wanted to stop. And genuinely, like, that's why I was like, I need a few minutes to just stand here and regroup. And then the second time as well, I was like, I just need a minute to like not freak myself out. So it probably added like 10 minutes to my time because I just had to stop, and the queues were quite long for the toilets, like even during the race. But again, it meant we got round. Someone said, how do you pace yourself to not bonk during the race? I did on actual marathon day, but I feel like that wasn't because of me pacing badly, it was because, again, external factors. But normally during training, I had my pace per mile repeated to me in my ears on Strava, so I knew roughly what I was doing, and I would go slower if it was too fast. Like, I had a time in mind when I went out for a run, and I kind of knew from previous runs what was sustainable. So if anything, it was like making sure I slowed down was what that was telling me. Before we get on to like the post-race bit, I'll do a few just overall thoughts about the experience, because it was incredible. The crowds were insane, but I will say the second half for me was so much better than the first, because the first half from mile like 6 onwards, I was panicking and I was in struggle city, whereas at mile 12 you cross Tower Bridge and then I got my Lucozade, and then from there I feel like things picked up. The crowds are pretty consistent. Everyone always says they hate Canary Wharf. I thought Canary Wharf was great. Like, the crowds were decent, it was shaded, which I love, and there was loads of space on the course as well, whereas some parts were quite like bottlenecked. Canary Wharf for me was a vibe. Everyone always says mile 20 is like that horrendous stage where your mental just flips and you freak out. I just freaked out at mile 9, so I was peachy by mile 20. I was like, this is great, 6 more miles, let's go. I had quite an abnormal race experience in that way, I would say. Running down Embankment as well was just incredible. The crowds were insane. Seeing so many friends and family again, like I said, was just, it really meant the most to me to see them, because I know from experience when you go to support, it takes a long time to stand there to get your spot, and you're waiting and watching and just like hoping you'll see them for all of maybe 10 seconds, and the stress of making sure you don't miss them as well. Like, I so appreciate everyone that took the time to support. Like, again, could not have done it without them. And also just random strangers calling out your name. So obviously I had my name on my shirt. I remember at first people would be like, go on Emily, and I'd be like, thank you. And I was like, I can't say thank you every time because I need to focus on what I'm doing. But whenever you would like take a walking break, a lot of people would be like, go on Emily, you can do this. Come on Emily, keep going. And again, wouldn't have got around without it. One of the parts I wasn't expecting though was you see Big Ben, and I thought from there I was like, oh, I'm basically at the finish, but then you turn and there's this harder section that I just wasn't mentally prepared for, and there's some photos of me down that stretch being like, I look like I want to die, because I'm like, what do you mean I'm not done? But then when you finally get to the mile and you turn right, I was so emotional. The moment I crossed the finish line, instantly burst out crying. It was just so much emotion coming, like I couldn't believe I'd actually done it. I knew it was going to be hard, but I think, yeah, again, the external factors meant it was so much harder than I could have possibly imagined, and it's just the relief of knowing it is done. You are done. Which leads me to the post-race section of this Q&A, where someone said, what's next? Are you going to carry on running? Perhaps another race in the future? Any more Run Disney races in your future? And would you do it again? So immediately afterwards, I said I'm never doing that again. Like, I was so over it. It was so hard. It took over my life, and it was just so intense, especially for someone who's not an athlete. Like, I'm not naturally athletically inclined. I wasn't on any sports teams at school. Like, I was just chilling. I was a dancer. I did musical theatre, you know? By literally like 6 days later, I was already thinking about doing my next one. I think it's addictive. Someone compared it to childbirth in that you go through all this pain, but then your brain kind of erases it and holds onto the nice part, which obviously child versus medal. I should have my medal actually. Why am I sitting doing this Q&A without my medal? One sec. Look at her. She is absolutely gorgeous. It's such a legit medal. Like, it really feels like I did something serious. I haven't worn this in a while. Let's just put it back on to remind myself that I am a winner. I am a marathoner. So yeah, literally 6 days later, I had changed my mind. I was like, I think I'd like to do another one. But I will be very honest with you, part of that came from my dissatisfaction with my experience. So although I've talked up how amazing the crowds were and everything, I just felt cheated because I'd put in so much work, and then being sick and also the heat, my time was so much lower than I'd wanted to. And I didn't go into it wanting a time, but like within a 20-minute window, you know? And it was like 40 minutes slower than I'd kind of thought even my max time was gonna be. And initially I was like, yeah, I don't care, like I did it. And then I sat back and I was like, no, but I trained and I deserve to do better than I did. And I know you can't control the heat, but being sick as well, like, come on, that wasn't really fair. So part of me feels like I have a redemption marathon in me. I have spoken to other people who had like a similar experience and that they weren't happy with how they did, and the post-marathon blues definitely hit me hard. Like, I was sat in bed crying to my sister a week later being like, I feel like such a failure, and she was like, you ran a marathon, what are you talking about? But that is the type of personality in me coming through. So would I do another one? Yes, and I already am. This is me making it official. I have signed up to the Dopey Challenge at Walt Disney World in January. This is where you do the 5K, the 10K, the half, and the marathon on consecutive days. I previously did the Princess Challenge, which is a 5K, 10K half. This is the full thing. So on top of that, it's a full-on marathon. When I signed up, obviously we hadn't even done one marathon yet, and now we're about to do it on top of everything else. One thing I will say that my body is quite good at though is recovery. So like I said, I would run 16, 17 miles on a Saturday, and then the next day I'd go out and have like a full day out and I do 20,000 steps and be fine. I think my body is quite good at snapping back, so I feel like it'll be okay. I'm also going into it though with a very like, if we walk, we walk. I don't care about the time. This is about enjoying the experience, going through Allfall Park. Obviously it's a very different strategy to just running the marathon, you know? So I'm really excited for that, but I feel like maybe I want to do another marathon as well. Like, separately to the Disney World one. Like maybe one in spring next year, maybe. I've spoken to a couple of people about it and they're like, Emily, why? Like, you just did it, you had the experience. But something in me feels like I have unfinished business. But am I gonna go through all of that again just for a time? It's not just the time though, it's that I want to enjoy the benefits of my training and I want to feel good running around my course. But in the meantime, I have 2 races coming up this year. I have the Vitality 10K. I signed up for that this week. The route looks so cool. You go like down the mall, and I feel like it's the best bits of the marathon course, just like condensed down to a 10K. I've also never done a 10K race, so that'll be fun. And then a few weeks after that, I'm hopefully gonna do the Battersea Park half marathon, which is very close to me, and I feel like it would be a good one to do. Like, it's super flat, pretty cheap. Me and Alice are gonna do it together, and I feel like a half marathon is a good distance to keep your fitness up. Speaking of which, actually, I have ran every day for the past 6 days, and tomorrow will be 7 days in a row. I kind of started it by accident when I did 3 days, and I was like, let's do 4. And now I feel like I want to do a full week. I'm not committing to daily running. That's not a thing. I have too much going on. But it's been a fairly quiet, well, it's not been a quiet week in that work has been crazy, but socially quiet, so I've actually had a lot of time for running, and I've been running a 5K basically every day. I did a 10K a few days ago, which is my first one post-marathon, so it feels good to be doing that distance again already. And my goal now, I guess, is to enjoy running through the summer and hopefully just stay fit and healthy, ready for those autumn races. Although saying that, I set a 5K PB on a random Wednesday night this week, 25:55, which for me is crazy. It was a whole 30 seconds faster than my previous 5K, which was a year ago, I think, so it's been a long time coming for that new PB. But yeah, this girlie is not done with running yet. Who would have thought it when I started running properly a year and a half ago, that we would be here with a medal and thinking about other crazy races. There are other questions I'm seeing, but I feel like I've rambled for long enough, so I'm gonna leave it there. If there is anything else though, feel free to leave a comment down below or DM me on Instagram, and I'll be happy to talk to you about all things running, even though I am not a source of knowledge. I'm just purely sharing my experiences, and hopefully that helps someone out there who's thinking about trying running for themselves. But everybody is different and everyone's going to respond differently to different training methods and plans. So remember, if it doesn't feel good the first time out, maybe try something different. My one tip actually, if you are a true beginner going for your first run, do the Couch to 5K method. Don't just go out and be like, I'm gonna go for a run. It won't feel good. You'll crash out and you'll be like, that's not for me. Most people can't just naturally go for a 5K. I started with that program and I felt like it worked really well. It's a very gradual build and also gets you used to running 3 times a week. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for maybe more running content to come. Definitely Dopey, but that's not till January. I don't know. Do you like running vlogs? Like shorts maybe? But that is all from me for now, and me and my medal will see you real soon. Bye!
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering.